Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Sasha Lukaszcyk on the show with us. She's coming to us all the way from New Jersey. She's a health and fitness connoisseur. You can follow her on Instagram. I'll leave her link down below for everything. But Sasha, great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory? What got you into the healthy and fit lifestyle? What was your reasoning behind it?
So, what got me into health and fitness, when I was in college, I went through a pretty bad eating disorder, and I was always trying to find the right way to lose weight, to get my dream body. And there was all this wrong information out there, like girls can't lift, girls can't eat, girls have to run. And so I was trying all of those avenues, and it really wasn't getting me anywhere. And then, I, in like the middle part of my college career, I was in a pretty bad abusive relationship. So I was already physically messed up and physically unhappy. And then this person that I was with really took away my independence and self worth from a mental standpoint. So when we broke up, I was like a shell of my former self. And I just kind of decided that enough was enough and I had to really put myself first. And towards the end of our relationship, I had already kind of started getting into the gym. I had joined my first gym and was getting into weightlifting, and I really fell in love with it. And when we broke up, I just really immersed myself full time into the gym and into weightlifting. And it got me results from day one. And I was super hooked and addicted, and I never looked back.
Okay, you mentioned it early on. It's one of the big stereotypes that I love to bust is that there has been this fear. It has gotten better over the last 5 years that women have where if they touch one weight, they're just going to hulk out and just get huge. Did you have that fear starting off early on, and how did you sort of deal with that?
I definitely did have that fear before I stepped into the gym, but by the time I had joined my first gym, I was already following a lot of other like fitness models and fitness influencers on social media. And so they were portraying the image that, that's a myth and that doesn't happen. And I figured like I want to look like them. So I need to push past that fear and that stupid mindset that I had previously and just get in the gym. And I noticed that it did not make me look like the She-Hulk at all. I've been trying to look like the She-Hulk since then, and it's easier said than done.
We're going to prove this in about 10 seconds. Can you give us a flex real quick? And I was going to say, does she look like the She-Hulk? Does she look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? No. Yeah, look at that.
I got some stuff.
Yeah, she's got some stuff, but I mean, it's like, I do that all the time, and I always say, yeah, they do not look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. They do not look like the Hulks. It takes so much hard work and dedication and nutrition to even get close to that especially women don't realize. I always tell the story of one of my good friends in college. I started working out really seriously in college, and then she would always say, I really want to go with you to the gym, but I'm just afraid. I don't want to get, big. I don't want to get bulky. And then finally, I just was fed up with it, and I just said, hey, the amount of weight that your purse carries when we go out to like clubs or when we go any place weighs more than a lot of the dumbbells that you'll curl in the gym. And by walking with that, you are not getting any muscle at all. And then she's like, oh, right, you have a point. So then she finally went in. So, it wasn't the best approach, I'll admit, kind of convincing her to go in there, but it worked. But so, yeah, everyone out there, it's a huge misconception. The amount of work, and I mean, genetics plays a huge role, but still the amount of work that you have to do to get those results is mind-blowing. And then I love to have the girls on here. I mean, especially when some of them flex, you're just like, yeah, do they look like the Hulk? That's the biggest myth buster that I can do right there. But when you were starting out also, I always like to say that if you were to walk into a gym with 100 people, there's 100 different ways to do things. 100 and different like reps, how amount of reps you should do, the 100 different exercises that they'll recommend that you do, 100 different nutrition tips. It's so varied person to person because no one's the same. Was it hard for you at first to find out that balance that worked right for you, knowing that everyone was different and that everyone's advice might not apply to you?
Um, it was definitely overwhelming at first. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. So I had no friends that were really super into lifting. I didn't have enough money to afford a personal trainer. So I went on bodybuilding.com and I found Jamie Eason. She's like this big fitness influencer, and she has this 12-week fit program. And I said, this woman looks like a boss. This program seems easy enough to follow. And I followed that for the first 12 weeks. And I learned a lot and I love the results that it got me. And so from there, I just kind of I guess I had already naturally started in, I guess it was more like a bodybuilding hypertrophy style. And so since that was what I started out with through that program and what got me the results I loved, then I kind of continued on with that same style. And I mean, I've tried out a ton of other things. I've done yoga, I've done Pilates, I do circuit style training. I do hit high intensity. I kind of really do it all, but at the end of the day, my niche is like, the bodybuilding style. I just love it. I
We
like
have
making
Jamie Eason
gains.
coming on in 2 weeks. So
No
yeah,
way.
I will send you the link when that gets recorded. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited to have her on because she was a huge influence even on me too, where I was like, yeah, I'm a guy, but even looking at her, I was like, good God, if I can even look like that, that'll be huge for me. So yeah, I'm really pleased to announce that we confirmed that a few days ago, but yeah, in about 2 weeks she'll be coming on. So I'm very, very excited about that. But when you were starting out, did you find that your body adjusted really, really quickly to the weight training, or did it take a while?
Well, yes and no. Well, it adjusted well because noob gains
Hmm.
galore. Hello. Like I guess I've always had a very naturally athletic and muscular body. And when I was going through my eating disorder, I looked a certain way, but I didn't appreciate it for what it was. I wanted to look like those pin thin runway models. And when I discovered weightlifting, it was kind of like one of those, if you can't beat them, join them. I think genetically more, I was just meant to be a weightlifter, an athlete, a more athletic build. So my body kind of took that and ran with it, and I made mad gains. But as far as adapting, like with the DOMs and and muscular soreness, I remember because I had never lifted a weight in my entire life,
Mhm.
and I remember the first 2 to 3 weeks, I was in pain every day, and I would have like a scratch on my nose, and I could not bring my biceps and my hand to my face, so I'd have to like reach my head down to meet my hand to scratch my face. It was like, man, it was tough. I just remember like sitting in like the car, my mom's driving to the grocery store, and I'm just like, I can't move anything. But I mean, I loved it. I think if you like to weightlift or if you're just an athlete in general in any way, shape, or form, you kind of have a little bit of those masochistic tendencies, and you love the pain.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's one thing I like. We were mentioning before the podcast. I used to be a baseball pitcher, and one of the things that I loved the most was especially after I got a win. If I lost, I didn't feel it, but like the feeling, the pain that you get in your arm afterwards, that was the best feeling in the world to me because it feels like you accomplished something. And I also get that with weight training too, because me personally, this Monday was the first time I'd lifted a weight in 3 weeks because I had the flu and then I had family come to visit, so I literally had no time to work out at all. So I'm still feeling the aftershock of the bicep workout I did on Monday and the back workout I did yesterday and the chest workout that I'm gonna have to do today. So that's gonna be interesting. But I like that feeling because it feels like you actually got off your butt for once and did something. But one of the huge things that I love to talk about that no one really brings up, I don't think that much on Instagram, especially, is that when you're starting out, you're going to need to eat a lot more than you had eaten before. Even if you were overweight, let's say, and you probably need to eat a lot more just to put on when you're putting on the muscle and you're putting on the size. But coming from an eating disorder to how you look now, was that a huge adjustment to you, sort of realizing that now you have to eat a lot now?
Um, yes and no. I kind of feel like something clicked in me at that point along with, my training and everything. So when I had my eating disorder, I always tried to play games. I downloaded my Fitness Pal and I would always try to get below 1,000 calories a day. And if I did, it was a win. And I thought like carbs were the enemy. I swore off potatoes. I swore off rice, no bread. Stupid, stupid, stupid. But I didn't know. Um, and I think, I think what was, I think what really helped me do the transition is that I had my eating disorder and then I was in Europe for about 3.5 months. I did a study abroad program in college. And so while I was there, it kind of helped me with my eating disorder because even though I still was like mentally fucked up and I didn't like my body and all that, I was in Europe and I said, I really can't track and use my Fitness Pal when I'm in Europe. At first, I tried. And then I said, YOLO, whatever. I've never been here before. Let's just eat all the bread. And I think that was kind of like a good transitional period because then as soon as I got back to the States was when I joined my first gym. And I realized that the food in Europe didn't hurt me and that if I was like lifting weights and doing all this physical activity that I would naturally need to eat more. And at this time I didn't know what macros were. I didn't know what flexible dieting was. So I had deleted my Fitness Pal. I didn't track anything at all, but I just knew that I had to fuel my body. And I guess I did it right because I know for sure I was eating a lot more. Um, and I mean, I made gains, and you can't make gains if you don't have food. So I, I just said like, shut up, get this eating disorder out, and start eating. And yeah,
Where in Europe did you go to?
I lived in the south of France for
Ooh.
2 months, and then for like an extra month or so afterwards, I went to Switzerland, Italy, and Germany.
Oh, nice. How was the wine in France? I gotta ask.
My
Oh,
gosh. You're paying like a euro, 1 euro, just 1 euro for the most beautiful glass of red wine,
oh.
like made literally down the street. It was like
Yeah,
so
I am not a
good.
wine guy myself, but all of my friends that are females, they just enjoy the crap out of it. I mean, I'm more of a beer guy myself, but then you went to Germany,
I'm
so
more
that
of a
probably
beer
made up
girl.
for it. Yeah. So what
I
was
love
Germany like then with the beer?
You know what? Switzerland beat it.
Oh, it
I
did?
made it a point to try the beer in every single country. Italy was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
And Switzerland I think beat Germany.
Yeah.
Switzerland was real good.
Did you have pizza at least in Italy?
Oh yeah, of
I was
course.
gonna
I
say,
ate
but
pizza
then I
everywhere.
I was gonna say I always say to our American audience, we're both Americans, but still everyone in America, the pizza that we have here is nothing like the pizza that they actually have in Italy. They have like
It's
actually
not.
legit pizza.
Yeah.
Not this Pizza Hut crap or Papa John's or any of that stuff, like the legit stuff. I mean, I'll have Papa John's every once in a while just because it's really, really cheap. And whenever any of the Minnesota sports teams get a W, you can get a discount on Papa John's. So that's the only reason really I get that. Still adjusting to a few years after college financially, still making that adjustment. So you gotta make some small sacrifices every once in a while. But at one point, have you decided to compete yet? Have you done a competition, or is that still a thought process for you?
Oh yeah, I've actually competed for about 3 years
Oh
already.
wow.
This year I did a whole bunch of the national shows and I actually came within 4 placements of getting my pro card. So I'm like right there. I'm like national level, like trying to
Yeah.
get into the IFBB. So I'm pretty competitive at it.
So, what
Yeah.
part in your journey did you decide to do that? Was it? I mean, we always have a lot of stories where people come on and say, like, "Yeah, there was this guy or someone at the gym came up to me and said, like, you look amazing, you should compete." What was that process like for you? Have you always wanted to do it since you got started, or did it take a little convincing?
So I think I had been lifting for almost a year by this point, and yet again, like everything that I was seeing on Instagram, I also saw a lot of girls like competing, and I had a really good friend in high school that competed back when we were in high school. So I had kind of interviewed her on stuff, and then I was always looking at Instagram trying to find out like information, and I decided that it was something that I really wanted to do. I'm an extremely goal oriented person, so that was like for me naturally the next step. And I brought it up to my ex at the time because we had still been together. We were together for about the first 7 or 8 months of me being in the gym, and by this point I had wanted to compete, and so I brought it up to him, and he straight up said in my face like, don't you ever bring that up again. I'll break up with you on the spot if you even play with that idea ever again. That's selling your body. Like you're like a stripper that's being a whore. I can't see you up on stage in a bikini. Like that's trash. You're trash, blah blah blah.
Jeez.
And so I dropped it. But I never forgot about it. And then after we broke up, it was kind of like it was something that I always wanted to do, and then it was also kind of like a big F you, I'm gonna do it anyway. And so I just did it anyway.
We can drop his name and I can leave the link down below. Ladies, if you're looking for a keeper, go and contact him.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah, I know, but it's so, this just kind of leads into my other topic where so many people, I just never understand where it comes to critiquing people who are getting healthy and fit, like they're bettering their bodies. And it seems that is the one societally accepted thing to do when people are gaining muscle and getting healthier. That's like one of the few areas where you can still like critique someone and it can still almost be socially acceptable. Because I always like to make the analogy, like if you're an alcoholic and you're trying to get sober, it's not societally acceptable to make fun of that person for trying to better themselves by getting sober. But if you're in health and fitness, some people believe that it's acceptable, then it's kind of critique you and say like, oh, why are you doing that? You're wasting your time, blah, blah, blah. I never understood that because people are bettering themselves and they're getting healthy. It's just mind boggling to me. How have you dealt with that?
How have I dealt with like negative feedback?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm a Jersey girl, and my mom was born and raised in the Bronx, and she taught me well that, like, let the haters be the motivators. Like, like if you don't have some sort of haters, then you're doing something wrong. I've always naturally been the kind of person that marched to the beat of their own drum. So yeah, I have gotten some negative pushback, but at the end of the day, I am who I am. I'm comfortable in who I am. And if something makes me happy and I want to do it, then I'm just going to do it. And I have for every hater, I have like 1 million supporters. So
absolutely. And I forgot that you're from Jersey. Me being from the Midwest, it's just the whole, where like you try to please everyone and you don't make any enemies at all. You just be nice to everything that moves. So I totally forgot that. But when it comes to your prep, what was your first prep like? Because I mean, people don't realize just how strenuous and how retentive and anal that can all be, just the dieting, the constant working out. What was that experience like for you the first time?
So it's weird. The first prep was the hardest in a sense that I was with my first coach who was not necessarily good for me. And so since then I've transitioned to a second coach who's like much better and has made prep so much easier. So my first prep was harder in the way that I feel that I was doing more physical activity and like eating less. And I was just with someone that wasn't knowledgeable and wasn't right for the job. But the weight loss and everything was much easier. And I think it's just because in the same sense of noob gains, it's like noob prep. The more you bring your body into that like dieting and bulking cycle, the harder it's going to be to lose weight. So this past prep of mine, even though it was the easiest, that like I was already seasoned, I already knew what to do, I already had the motivation, the drive, the expectations, my body just really did not want to lose weight for like the first like 3 or 4 months. And it's just because it just gets tired and I don't know, it sucks. And I've decided that I'm like taking a break for at least a year because I need to get my body back to like healthiness and normalcy and whatever.
One of my favorite things to ask, and I mean no offense because I'm super super pale myself. We don't have very complex skin, but what was that like the first time putting that tan on and seeing everything pop out? Because that's just a dream of mine, just to have that tan just for one day. Because me, one of those people, I mean, I can't go out in the sun for more than half an hour. Even if you give me the most SPF ever, I'll just still burn to a crisp. That's just my Northern European genetics that are just, we're used to staying out of sunlight a lot. It's mainly going to be dark. But what was that like for you the first time that you put that tanner on?
I'm going to let you know the tan is my least favorite part. It looks great. It does not feel great. It does not smell great.
Yep.
The whole circumstances surrounding it ain't great. Guys have it so much easier than girls because girls... Has anybody... I don't know how many like prep competition people that you have interviewed on here, but
they've told me the background of how you get it applied and what that's like, yeah.
But did they talk about the fact that you gotta like pee through a cup and all that? And
no one has ever brought that up. So yes, we are hearing brand new information on DD on the spot. Sasha is going to provide us with it. So give us the backstory on that.
Okay, so this tan, you cannot get it wet. Like once that tan is on, they ain't no showers. Like when you wash your hands, you got to be real delicate with it. You cannot wear deodorant. You cannot wear body spray, no lotion, no nothing. And for girls, particularly, when you use the bathroom, you need to be extra careful that you do not get any splashback or pee trickling
Wait a
down
minute. I
back to
thought
your
girls never
legs.
use the bathroom. You're telling me that's a myth?
I'm talking about pee, not
Oh,
the
okay,
poo.
good. Okay, everyone. Yeah, so the myth is still alive, everyone. Okay, so everyone can go about their day still thinking that that's true. All right.
Oh my gosh. Well, when we have to pee,
Mm-hmm.
we need to use like pee funnels and pee cups because you need to minimize the risk that pee is gonna drink down the backs of your legs.
Yeah, I never heard. I mean, we had one Australian come on who was in her tan when she came and talked to us, which I really really appreciated because we finally got to see like what that all looks like and kind of the difficulties with that. But yeah, just that whole process. I mean, it looks great, but yeah, I've heard so many horror stories about what goes on and stuff like that where I'm just like, yeah, I'd rather just go to a tanning salon for a couple of days and just get that GTL gym tanning laundry, which you're probably familiar with. Get that going on. So
Comes full circle.
yeah, exactly. So what was that like? Because I can't imagine, what it's like to go on stage. Well, I did do something for our high school where I did a sketch in front of a lot of people, but what's it like, or like pitching in front of a lot of people, but what's it like going on stage in front of a lot of people and sort of like showing off? Was that a fear of yours, kind of where you're like, I don't know if I'll be able to do this? Or was it one of those things where you're like, I've worked my tail off, I'm just going to go out there and show it off? Was that something that you had to convince yourself to do?
Definitely option B. I've always naturally been a performer my entire
Yep.
life, so like yeah, I mean, you definitely get nervous. I mean, I think by this point I've probably done about 6 or 7 shows, and the last one was in Vegas, hundreds and hundreds of people there. And to this day, you still, you get nervous. Not to say that I don't get nervous, but I've always just been a performer. So to me, getting on stage is the best part of it all. It's such a rush. It's so much fun.
What was it like being in high heels? Because that's one thing that people don't talk about as well. Was that difficult for you?
Yet again, no. I think I was born. I think my mom like gave birth to me, and I was already wearing a pair of high heels. So you definitely need to practice, no matter if you're good in high heels or not, because the posing heels and the way you need to pose and the way you need to move is completely different. But for the most part, I mean, me being in heels is also like very natural.
My second health and fitness guest that I had on, and I didn't even know that she lived 10 minutes away from me, I found out later on, was the tallest ever figure competitor for women that's ever lived. She was 6'3", like 190 pounds when she competed, and she had to wear heels. So try to imagine, that was an interesting conversation talking to her about wearing heels. She was like, yeah, I'm 6'8" or whatever in those heels. So I was like, yeah, that would be kind of difficult to walk in. So that's definitely something that, yeah, I mean, put me in heels, yeah, that wouldn't be a sight to see. But some people are just naturally used to it, so I can understand that. But I have a lot of up-and-coming bands as well on the show, and I love to ask them what it's like, the thrill of performing live, the audience feedback. And I feel that also applies to our competitors that we have on the show. What is that feeling like for you when you step on stage and everyone's cheering and, those months of hard work and dedication finally paid off? What is that feeling like for you exactly?
It's like the utmost adrenaline rush. You feel completely on top of the world, and when you get off stage, you kind of have like the shakes a little bit because it's just this massive rush. But I have a funny like analogy with it. Whenever I get on stage, especially like local shows where my friends and family can come and I have people in the audience, they're always screaming. Like my mom is so loud and she's always screaming my name and cheering and whatever. And when I get off stage, they're like, "Oh my God, you did so good. Did you hear us? We were saying this and that." And I tell them straight up, like, no, I don't really hear you guys, because it's a complete blackout. And I relate it to that episode of Spongebob where they make that fancy restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
And then Squidward's like, you need to erase your mind and only think of fine dining and breathing. And the way that I cope with being up on stage is that I'm like a different persona, and I completely erase my mind and only think of posing and breathing. So I get off stage and I'm like, nope, didn't hear anything. Nope, I don't remember anything. Nope, did I look okay? Did I do it right? Who was standing next to me? I don't know.
Oh, wait, you mentioned SpongeBob. What is your favorite SpongeBob episode?
Oh no. Oh no, that's so hard. Man,
Mine personally is the ugly barnacle one.
the ugly barnacle one is really good. I think I might need to say like the Krusty Krab pizza.
Yeah, that's a
That's
great.
a
I
classic.
mean, that's and they're still making new ones. I don't get how they are, and like I'll turn to Nickelodeon every once in a while, and there'll be a new one on. And I'm like, how are they still doing this? Like, how are they? It completely blows my mind.
Yeah,
But
after
when
2005, the quality just went
oh,
downhill.
well, yeah. I mean, they'll make a good one every once in a while that I'll hear about, but yeah, the quality, yeah. You reach a certain peak point where you can't really get any better. I mean, every really show has that, but after competitions, what is your go-to meal?
Oof, oof, oof. Um, ooh, man. Well, if I'm competing specifically in Jersey, I go to my favorite diner, because like at the end of the show, I don't want just one thing. I don't want to commit to just eating pizza or just eating a burger. I'm the kind of person that wants small bites of
Give me
everything.
everything. Yeah.
Exactly. So like I go and I'll order like, I mean, obviously I'm sharing. I don't eat all this, but like I do nachos, I do mozzarella sticks, I do chicken wings, I do disco fries, I do a burger. Uh yeah, kind of all that stuff.
Ooh.
Always a milkshake,
Oh, yes.
maybe some cheesecake,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of everything. A little bit
Absolutely.
of everything.
Absolutely. One of the topics that I love to bring up because it isn't discussed. I mean, it's discussed a little bit on Instagram, but not as much as when it comes to people don't realize that when you guys are doing these competitions, when you're on stage, you've sort of manipulated your body through all of the working out, through all of the nutritioning to look a certain way. It's not a sustainable look where sometimes people are like, oh, they must look like that year round. They must just be ripped and shredded all year. People don't realize some people, even right after, like 6 hours later, their body changes and they don't look anything like that. Some people can sustain it for maybe a few days afterwards, but your body is going to adapt and change. How do you deal with that mentally, knowing that when you walk on the stage, like this is the best that I'm going to look for a while? This might be the best that I even look for like a year or so. Then my body's going to gain weight. How do you sort of deal with that mentally and accept the fact that you aren't going to sustain this look?
I think when I first started getting into competing, I was always looking at the right resources. So I think I started off this competition journey already on the right track. When I, even before I committed to my first prep, and then throughout the entirety of my first prep, yeah, of course, I was focused on the during, but I found myself watching a lot of like YouTube vlogs and reading a lot of online diaries and blogs and stuff on the after and what to do after and the repercussions after and how to approach the after. And I think I had prepared myself well enough with the tools and the mindset to be okay with whatever's going to come after. And now this is my third time around in and after, because my last show was the end of July. And so this puts me at like over 2 months post show. And I think each time gets easier. Throughout the entire prep, yeah, I'm focused on that end goal, but I also always have it in the back of my mind, like, okay, but like how am I gonna get out of this? And then what's the after effects? And I already know that I can't keep that body and I'm comfortable in my off season body enough to be comfortable with that. But I also think it totally gets easier each time. And I think this past post show period that I'm going through right now has definitely been the easiest transition for me. It just gets better.
When I get started in my journey, really putting on muscle, putting on a lot of weight in college, one of the side effects that I really didn't enjoy at first, but I've come to sort of get used to is that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. You're going to get asked to do a lot of stuff like that where you're just going to be like, no, I can't. I mean, it's gotten to the point where my summers are stacked almost every weekend of a friend like, hey, we have a couch that need help lifting. Can you come over and like help us move stuff? I'll just be like, okay. And my thing now is where I tell them like, as long as it doesn't interfere with a workout, like I'll work out usually ahead of time and then do it. But have you gotten similar requests like that? And how do you deal with that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mainly from my mother.
Yep.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, I'm happy to help. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. It's all right. I don't mind. I take it as a big compliment because oftentimes I'm asked before some guys even. So I'm
Ooh.
like, all right, like I'll take it.
Yeah. I just I see if it was just like that for me, I would be fine. But I used to work at Amazon in the warehouse, so
My mom works at Amazon.
yeah,
Ah!
so every time that there'd be a package over like 100 pounds, they say bring Muscles in there because my nickname was Muscles, so they're like Muscles, get over here, we need you to lift this package. So literally my entire like I did part time so when I was still in college, but for a 5 hour shift, I'd probably lift about like 30 or 40 100-pound packages into like stuff. So that got to a point where I was like, okay, I hate being huge now. I don't want to ever lift a weight ever again. I want to get small again. I don't want to get this asked of me all the time. But it got to a point, where I accepted it and moved on. But my favorite question to ask out of all these questions is when it comes to clothing, they don't really make clothes for in shape, like super like muscular and big women. How do you compensate? I mean, I know what you're wearing right now. That's actually really cool. I was going to ask you like where you got that. Cause like even for guys, that's a cool thing to wear. But like, how do you compensate for that? Yeah. Yeah, that looks awesome. So how do you compensate for the fact that, they aren't going to make a lot of dresses for women with like big shoulders, not going to make, especially jeans I've heard is a huge thing. How do you compensate?
Well, like dresses for the most part and stuff, I can typically get away with.
For
most
now.
of the time shirts are for now.
Yeah.
Most of the time shirts are okay too. Once in a while I'll get in trouble with like my lats because they don't make shirts that are like wide enough for people that actually have a back or have a pair of shoulders. But jeans are definitely the biggest struggle because it's like you got like the butt and the thighs, but like no waist. It's just a lot of trial and error. Some companies are better than others. I have found that American Eagle, for the most part, is pretty good. But Guess. I went to a Guess, not warehouse. Warehouse? I don't know. Where it's like a ton cheaper.
Yeah.
And they actually have like some really good stuff that can fit. So it's a struggle. It's a friggin' struggle. I spend the majority of my time either in gym clothes or dresses. Or shorts, because shorts, you can get away with shorts, but like jeans, I hate jeans. I call them like leg prisons.
I was going to say we had like an actual like bodybuilder. She's not in physique. She's like in actual bodybuilding. One of the biggest people I've ever seen. Yeah, she's like, I only can wear gym clothes. I can't wear anything. It's like, I got invited to a wedding and I had to go, but like I had to buy like a dress that was like 6 sizes larger than me or whatever, just for the shoulders. And then I had to have it like trimmed down. And I was like, oh my God, that must be. So I always end that question with everything. If anyone out there in the audience can come up with a way to make like a fit clothing brand for women that like really you're able to like wear dresses, you're able to wear normal stuff. That is a multi-million-dollar idea. So get on that. I will give you the patent because I'm such a nice guy. I won't say that I came up with that idea first, but anyone out there, get down to it. So now we go to our audience favorite part of the podcast, the little questionnaire where I'm going to ask Sasha about a dozen or so questions. We're going to get her answers and see how she compares to all the other contestants that we've had on the questionnaire. So for our first one, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
Would you believe I don't listen to music when I lift? I don't. People think I'm crazy. I'm like a crazy unicorn. I do a lot of like tempo training. So I really get in my own head and like count like my tempo of my movements, the eccentric and the concentric and junk. And I yell at myself in my head a lot.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you actually yell at yourself. And I was like, oh, so you're that one lady in the gym. It's like, come on, push it.
Sometimes. Yeah. But I usually keep it in my head.
Yeah.
I don't listen to music.
I was gonna say I started out like that, but then I was like, I felt like I was going crazy just because like I do like the slow lifts and everything like that. Where I was like, okay, this is so boring. Like if I don't have like any music, so I got to do like the old school like Metallica, Iron Maiden, where like I was doing back last night, and then you got to wait for the beat to drop before you go down, just so you can time it perfectly, so that you can get the best out of it. But moving on, if you could work out with any celebrity on the planet, who would it be?
Ooh, I like that one. I have a massive crush. I know our workout styles are totally different, but I have a massive crush on Conor McGregor.
Yeah,
I'd work out with him.
That'd be interesting. I was surprised, guys. She's from Jersey, and we didn't hear The Situation or Pauly D or any of those guys, so that's a plus right there.
I do love Pauly D though; he's freaking hilarious.
Oh yeah,
but
he's. I was always gonna say like when I do get married, he might be one of the guys that I'm gonna request to be the DJ at the wedding. Just get DJ Pauly D in there. Yeah, get that beat up, obviously. But I'm glad that you mentioned Conor McGregor because you're like the 28th, I think, health and fitness guest that we've had on, like 95th overall. But out of all the health and fitness guests, I think out of the 28, we've had 24 The Rock, Everyone just loves The Rock. They say The Rock all the time. So I'm glad that we have a Conor McGregor thing. Me personally, I don't think I could work out with him just because I'm so much bigger than he is. I'm 6'3", like 210 pounds, and he's really, really short. So I was like, yeah, I don't know what we could really do together because it's like, yeah. So me personally, I'd probably just have to work. Most basic answer ever. I'd do an Arnold just because to hear him yell in his Austrian accent is still the funniest thing ever. So I'd purposely like mess up on things and be like, no, you idiot. Just so I could hear him just so I could hear him go off. I do that on purpose. It'd be the best thing ever. But now, if you could train any celebrity on the planet, who would it be?
Oh shit. If I could train?
Yeah.
Oh man. If I could train any celebrity on the planet. Oh my god.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
I have oh man, see now you already got me thinking like Jersey Shore, so I'm like I'm kind of biased now. I train one of my clients right now is actually good friends with Snooki.
What?
And so I have been I've been trying to like get Snooki to come by cuz I want to train Snooki. That would be freaking hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'd vote Snooki.
I was literally just watching Jersey Shore before we did this podcast because it was on MTV, and that was in high school. That was my show. Like everyone, I was at the perfect age where my freshman year was when it started, and then my senior year was when it ended. So that was the perfect age range for me. I watched all of them. Everyone, even in Minnesota, we were all loving the vuvuzelas, the grenade whistles, everything. Don't even get me started. But yeah, if you could work out with Snooki, yeah, that would be cool for me. I mean, our popular answer is Kevin Hart that everyone says to get someone like that. But for me, I'm always like, if I were to work out with him, first of all, it wouldn't be a workout because I just laughed the entire time. Wouldn't be able to get anything done. I'd get a hell of an ab workout in, but that would be about the only thing that I do. So for me, I don't know. I'd probably just want to do, for me, one of my biggest pet peeves is when you see these celebrities on Instagram posting like, oh my God, serious workout for movie role. And they're curling like 2-pound dumbbells. And they're doing like all these stupid movements. And I was like, no, that's not a workout. That's not a real workout. So maybe get like the Kardashians on or something like that and put them through an actual workout. Instead of like doing these stupid like body weight things where they're just like
That's
doing
a
like
good answer.
they're doing like these like half dips where their like knees are on the ground and then you're like that doesn't do anything.
That's a
for
good
you.
answer.
Yeah, so I would kick their butt and I would film it and make a shitload of money doing it. So I would be absolutely 100% happy. But now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Ooh. Man, I don't want to be basic and say chicken.
Believe it or not, that is not our popular answer by far. It's probably like our fourth most popular.
You know what? I'm kind of obsessed with kombucha. I always need to have at least one or two kombuchas
What
in
is
there.
that?
It's their fermented probiotic drinks. Yeah, they're like
Oh yeah.
carbonated.
Now I pictured it. Yeah, I pictured it in my head. Yeah. Yep.
I love
I was
kombucha.
gonna say our most popular answer by far is like milk or almond milk or any of that stuff. So yeah, kombucha, everyone, is what she has in her fridge at all times. So what is one thing that people who follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know if they met you in person?
You know what? To be honest, I really feel like they wouldn't be that surprised about anything because I am such a hot mess express on Instagram. I have no filter. I like put it all out there. But I guess what people would be most surprised about is that I'm a complete math and science geek. Like I took calculus and like AP bio and all that jazz when I was in high school. And then I went to art school for college. So like my entire life just makes no sense, but I love calculus.
Yeah.
So that'd probably be it.
I mean, and that really helps with weightlifting, calculating all the weights that you need to do and everything. That's definitely a huge plus. But this is probably our toughest question. What is one thing that you would die to have if it went up for auction? Like out of all the things that you could have on the planet, if it went up for auction, what was one thing that you would die to have?
You went up for auction, so you mean like you can't go, so this is not something that you would go and buy.
Well, it could. So like let's say like maybe like a historical piece or something like that, or like a house went up for auction that you really wanted, or anything. Like we've had so many guesses where one girl was like, if I could get like a diamond bikini, like an all diamond bikini from an next competition, he's like, I'd have to win because there's no way that the judges would take their eyes off. And I was like, you're going to have an Indiana Jones effect, though, where everyone's face is going to melt off because the reflection is just going to blind everyone. So I was like, be careful what you wish for. But yeah, so like if any item on the planet, like we've had also people like if I could get like a piece of Titanic, just stuff like that. But if anything was up for auction, what would be the one thing that you would die to have?
I mean, not necessarily up for auction, but when I was in Vegas, I drove in my first Tesla. and I
Ooh.
just want one of those, man. They're like spaceships.
Hmm.
It had like no roof virtually. I don't know.
My favorite answer is one girl said if Channing Tatum was up for auction, she'd take him. And I
Oh my
said,
god.
that's a whole different topic that we're not going to get into. But I appreciate that answer. And I wouldn't personally get Channing Tatum. I'd go for someone else. But I respect that answer. But what was the last TV show that you binge watched?
Ooh, binge watched. Currently on Netflix, my mom and I are watching this show called I Am a Killer,
Oh.
and it's really freaking good.
What's it
It's about
about?
so I am a killer.
Yeah, yeah.
Every single episode is about someone new that's currently on death
Mhm.
row. And it's very interesting because you get to hear all sides of the story. I feel like the news and the media tend to make it one-sided towards like the victim, and
Mhm.
they don't give every single piece of
Absolutely.
evidence. And so it's very interesting to hear the killer's side because there's a few of them that you're just like like thank god you're in jail,
Yeah,
like if
you're
you
like,
get
yeah,
on the
this guy shows no
streets.
remorse at all. He's glad that he did it. Yep.
Exactly,
Yep.
but there's a few that, like, honest to god, I don't think that they deserve the punishment that they got, and you just honestly feel like really bad for them. So it's kind of like really eye-opening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the last show that I binge watched was New Girl, and I actually enjoyed it. It was actually pretty good. I
It's a
didn't
good
think
show.
I would, but what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Oh, no. Oh, favorite TV show of all time? Shit. I mean, I have to say that, like, I mean, I grew up with SpongeBob and
Hmm.
Family Guy. That's what I grew up with. Then for a brief period of time, I was really into The Walking Dead, but I've completely fallen out of that.
I stopped watching after like the fourth season because it just got too much for me. I was like, I can't pay attention anymore. I can't focus. It's too much.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. I guess for sentimental reasons, like SpongeBob always got a place in my heart.
For me, it's a tie basically between The Office and Friends. That's just my two where I just, you kind of have to pick your battles with that one. It depends on how I'm feeling in the day. Like if someone were to ask me what my favorite one is, that's for sure. But what is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes.
I can quote like so
Oh.
much of that movie. It's unreal.
When I was in fourth grade, that's when the movie was first coming out, and our fourth grade class went to an overnight campground where we spent like 2 days there overnight, and there was like a sketch thing that you could do, and me and my bunkmates did the entire Rex Kwon Do sketch in front of everyone.
That's
I played
amazing.
Rex, and then everyone played Kip, so I got to actually like smack the guy and everything like that. But yeah, that was the highlight of the trip for a lot of people because they said that we did it so good. But I memorized that word for word, absolutely Napoleon Dynamite. But my guilty pleasure movie, my ultimate date night movie, Day One, Princess Bride.
Oh, you
Have it
see,
done.
that's a classic.
That's the
That's a
thing,
classic.
where most people would never guess, but I really love that movie. That's my go to date night movie any day of the week. Watch that. It's a nice solid movie. So yeah, I mean, when it comes down to that, you can't get much better than that. But yeah, Napoleon Dynamite obviously is a huge one as well. But what is one thing that you would change about the sport of bodybuilding if you had the all seeing power to do so?
Politics.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say they exist.
Yep.
Politics exist, and I've definitely felt the brunt of that. I think that there's like a lot of sketchy things that happen behind the scenes, particularly like with females and the judges. I've heard some horror stories about girls coming back up to the hotel and doing some things. Um, Also, a lot of it has to do with where you are in the country, what
Yeah.
team you have, who your coach is. So I just wish that, I mean, but everything has some sort of
Mhm.
political edge to it. I just wish that the sport was a bit more focused on the actual physiques like it's
Mhm.
supposed to be, which for the most part it is, but a lot of times there's just some things that you can't avoid just
Maybe
like
those
that.
girls were going up to the hotel rooms for casting meetings, though, like Harvey Weinstein. We never know, okay? You don't know. Yeah, but yeah. I've
Yeah.
heard similar things like that. But yeah, that's one of those things where you're just like, I mean, you're going the extra mile, but I wouldn't do it. So it's just, yeah, I don't. I That's one of the things that I'd say too. Like for me, my big thing though is I had a bodybuilder on here, the same one that I was talking about. She was in at 2% body fat when she went to her bodybuilding competition. She said, like, yeah, I weighed 180 pounds and I did the composition test and she had 3 pounds of fat on her out of the
I don't even know how
180.
that's physically possible.
I didn't think it was too, but then she's like, yeah, I got into a car crash like later, like a couple days later because I couldn't concentrate driving, like because my brain was just dead almost.
Yeah.
So that's one thing where I would set up like a body fat. I know there'd be no way that they could implement it, but if you could set up like a body fat thing where like if you got under, let's say like 5% or like for some women like 7% or anything like that, where it's like you wouldn't be allowed to compete because you hear so many stories about these competitors dying at the age of like 30 because they just overtrain themselves. And then a lot of people have like expanded heart and lungs just through all of the intense training or some of the stuff that they take, which we don't talk about on the show. This is a completely thing on that, but they get, unhealthy and then they die, early ages. So I would definitely try to make it a little bit more healthier, even though I know that might not bring the same aesthetic look that people are used to, but it's just, you gotta think about the competitors' lives too. Cause let's face it, when you're in your last few weeks of prep, you're not in the best state of mind to kind of, with judgment wise. So you kind of got to help these competitors out and kind of make it a little bit easier for them. But we have two final questions now on the questionnaire. And the first one I really love to ask everyone on the podcast is, if someone were to walk up to you on the street and say, like, obviously you look amazing, I want to sort of get into a more healthy and fit lifestyle, what would be the best piece of advice that you would give that person in order for them to be successful in their endeavor?
I would probably say set realistic goals in a realistic time frame, and do your research, because I think one of the problems with the health and fitness industry is that people want fast results and they will do anything to get them, and it's upsetting when the media is only helping promote all of all of those just very incorrect theories, like, oh yeah, take this juice cleanse or this diet cleanse.
Don't eat for 2 weeks. You'll be fine.
Exactly. And people fall into that trap over and over again. And so they're not realistic about it. And I always say, like, instead of saying I want to lose 10 pounds in a week, why don't you say I want to lose 10 pounds in like 10 weeks? Like, that's a good, slow pace. And yeah, it's not glamorous, but that weight you're going to lose, you're more than likely not going to get back on. And, when you do these fast, like juice cleanses, the second that you go back to eating food, you haven't learned anything, and then you're going to just gain back double what you lost. So
I always love to use the analogy, a program that I hate more than anything in and of itself is The Biggest Loser. I hated that show when it came out. I hate it so much because these people, they bring in these obese people, they work them out 12, 13 hours a day. You're going to lose weight if you work out 12, 13 hours a day. You could eat anything and you'll still lose weight, just the amount of calories that you're burning. So these people will lose like 120 pounds. They'll leave the show. They don't know the proper ways on how to maintain it nutrition-wise or anything like that. So they'll end up gaining 180 pounds and weigh even more than they weighed before they got on the show. I hate that show, and it's such a high rate. I think they said like 75% of all contestants gain the weight back after they leave it. There's only a small percentage that are able to actually maintain it. So when I tell people, it's like, make sure that when you are losing the weight, that you're learning ways to keep it down, because then you're just gonna have worked your butt off to only look good for maybe like a few months before you gain the weight back. It's completely pointless then. So really, you got to focus on that and make sure that you're doing the right ways of maintaining that weight loss and not gaining all of that back. I can't preach that enough. And then for our last question of the questionnaire, if you could talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would you say to her? What would be your best piece of advice?
My best piece of advice would be that it's going to get hard. It's not rainbows and sunshine every single day, but to always believe in yourself, put yourself first, stick to your guns.
Literally and figuratively.
And just always surround yourself with positive people that are truly looking out for you, because not everybody has your best interests in mind. So absolutely, I couldn't agree. And I'm always gotta say, whenever someone says guns, I always got to do that funny photo. I'm that one guy where it says like bans guns on these premises, I always got to hit it with a flex and then be like, yeah, they're not banning these bad boys. I used to do that. I don't do that anymore, but like when I was younger and a little more immature, did that all the time. Always got the laughs. So whenever someone says guns, I always automatically think of that. Now, going off the questionnaire though, when it comes to your coaching, at what point in your journey did you decide that you want to become a coach and help out others? I feel like, well, so when I very first started my bikini competition was when I started my Instagram to go with it, and my Instagram was purely meant just to kind of be like a prep diary for anybody that wanted to follow along. And it slowly evolved into something that I would have never imagined it would. And I had received so much positive feedback over the years. And it took me probably about like 2 years into actually having my Instagram and having people constantly say like, you should coach, you really know what you're doing. Until I finally said like I've been getting so much positive feedback that I should. And I honestly get more out of helping others than I do helping myself,
Mhm.
because I have been in those incredibly dark times where I had no confidence and no self-worth, and I've found a way out of that. And now like I feel I'm like my journey isn't over, but I feel like this next part of my journey is to help people get out of what I was in. And so I think that's like where I find my worth now.
And I always like to ask these two questions to every coach. What is the probably the biggest excuse that people use when it comes to avoiding the gym, not getting into a healthy and fit lifestyle? What's the biggest excuse that you usually run into?
It's almost always time.
Yep.
People don't have enough time. And I'm like, listen, I was a full-time student. I had two part-time jobs. I was living 800 miles away from home in college, and I was doing a full-time bikini competition. Like not even
Yeah.
general weight loss gym, like bikini competition. And I was still able to do that. So, I mean, even if you can just set aside 1 hour of your day, like that's 1 out of 24, you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say, like, we've had nurses on here that do their 12-hour shifts and they're able to work out, or they do it before. It's all about your determination and willpower. And when it comes to the coaching aspect, is it hard for you? Because like we mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast, everyone's different when it comes to how they lose weight or how their body works. There's some people that are just genetic freaks where they can, eat kind of whatever they want and they'll still lose weight or they'll still look good. Is it hard for you at first when you have a client to sort of gauge or gauge what best would work for them when it comes to them getting a healthy lifestyle change?
I mean, sometimes, it's always kind of I don't want to say like a shot in the dark, but whenever you're giving like a completely new client a new plan, it's never going to be 100% correct.
Mhm.
But I feel like I've kind of gotten the recipe down very well. I have my clients before they even sign on with me, we talk on the phone. So instantly through that, we have a conversation and I know a lot about their backgrounds. And then my intake form is extremely in depth. So from there, I always get a ton of information. Um, and I also utilize macros. And so I've like studied, I have my certification and all that, and I've done it for myself for years. So I also think the fact that I do like a macro approach and a flexible approach, I'm not like restricting any foods. That also kind of makes it easier because there's more wiggle room at
Mhm.
that point. So
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And we can't thank Sasha enough for coming on the podcast. I mean, it was really great talking to you. Other than your Instagram, which I'll leave links down below, are there any other ways that people could contact you if they want some personal training advice or if they want any advice in general? What are some other ways to get a hold of you?
Instagram is definitely my best,
Mhm.
but I do have a Facebook and a website.
Okay.
My Facebook is just my
Yeah.
name, Sasha Lukaszcyk. Have fun spelling that
Have
out.
fun.
Or
Mhm.
if you look up Sasha Meets Fitness,
Yeah.
and it's the same across all platforms. So my Instagram is Sasha Meets Fitness. My Facebook business is Sasha Meets Fitness. And my website itself is also sashameetsfitness.com.
Absolutely. I'll leave links down below for all of that stuff. And we can't thank you enough for coming on the show. And lastly, is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up here?
Ooh. Yeah, because I'm totally gonna make her watch it when this is out. I'm gonna give a shout out to my mama. I don't know. I have no one else to give a shout out
Shout out
to.
to Sasha's mom.
Eh.
You did a good job, okay?
Listen, man, I've
Congratulations.
been training her for the past like
Nice.
2 months and she's already lost almost 10 pounds, so I'm super proud.
Oh, getting those mom gains. Yeah, we see all those all the time where then they're helping out with their parents, which is huge too, because my parents are a little bit on the heavier side too, so I have been helping them out a little bit, but not as much as I'd like to. But I mean, like I said, everyone go and follow her on Instagram. Go and follow her. It will inspire you to get off the couch and stop eating those Twinkies and getting, adapting a more healthy and fit lifestyle. Go and ask her for any advice when it comes to health and nutrition. If you need a coach, I highly recommend using her. I mean, someone who's had the background that she has and the struggles that she's gone through, I think would really benefit to have you as their trainer because she knows what it's like to feel the lows of the lows and also the highs of the highs. So, I mean, just having that background is so important when it comes to looking for a coach. And like I said, you guys, Sasha, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show. If you need anything promotion wise, like if you're releasing anything with your company, let us know. And this is DD on the spot. Ryan Johnson signing out. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.